So thank you so much for coming. We are delighted today to be launching our People, Professionals and Property collaboration, which is a joint initiative between Law Society of Northern Ireland, RICS and Property Mark. More accurately, we should be saying that this is a collaboration between solicitors, estate agents and surveyors to make the conveyancing process in Northern Ireland better. So to some extent we have been here before. I'd like to welcome back, first of all, Sam Dickey from RICS and Mary Lou Press from Property Mark to talk about what we can expect from this new approach. In 2018, we launched the original Memorandum of Understanding to assist the sort of understanding between the three bodies. But the new initiative takes a wider look at the home moving process and has identified a number of areas where simple changes can, we think, genuinely transform the experience for everyone. At its simplest, the People, Professionals and Property document, I will get that right, it doesn't trip off the tongue just yet. It sets out, now I'm working, excellent, thank you. At its simplest, the People, Professionals and Property document sets out what we all do and crucially the order in which we do it. But importantly, it now forms part of a set of documentation that reduces or even potentially avoids completely avoidable delay in the conveyancing process. On behalf of Law Society of Northern Ireland, we are grateful to RICS and Property Mark and individually Sam from RICS and Mary Lou from Property Mark for all their hard work over the past 12 months to actually get this initiative to fruition in time for our Conveyancing Week. I presume that you have seen something of Conveyancing Week on social media. To explain very quickly what that is about, we essentially have three rules or three objectives in Conveyancing Week in Northern Ireland. First, we want to continue and to consolidate the relationship we already have with other stakeholders in the process, namely RICS and Property Mark. We also feel that as solicitors, the role of the solicitor isn't properly understood by a lot of people in the house buying, house selling process. So we really want to get to the public directly. And for that reason, we're delighted to have selected Property News as our media partner for the week, and they have assisted us in getting our message directly out to all of those active users on the Property News website, who are essentially our next sellers and buyers and the next generation of clients. So Emma, who's here today, thank you very much for your vision and your support. The third thing that we actually want to do in Conveyancing Week very quickly as part of our outreach is we're aware that our profession is getting older and we need to recruit more people into the conveyancing profession. So this week, yesterday and today, we've been doing a number of events with solicitor students at the Institute of Professional Legal Studies and law and other sort of associated undergrads at both Queen's University and Ulster University to explain to them about the conveyancing process, why conveyancing can be a rewarding career, and actually really importantly, to try to get more people back into our high streets. High street firms generally are not having a great time at the moment, and the fact of the matter is, if you are in a high street firm, you have a real opportunity and a real sense of the ability to have a lot of fulfillment by being at the centre of your local community. So what we're doing today is the third string of Conveyancing Week, which is speaking to estate agents and surveyors and solicitors about how we can fix the process together. So the People, Professionals and Property document integrates with the new form of sale advice note and the brand new vendors property questionnaire, and they should be in your materials today, and I think there are more copies at the back of the room. One of the most important motivations behind this whole project is the very clear issue that solicitors are instructed too late in the house sale to avoid inevitable delay. We've talked a lot about upfront information or front loading for a number of years now, and in fact our new general conditions of sale, which is the contract drafted by a group in the Law Society under which all residential conveyancing transactions must be carried out, that reflects this important step forward, especially when you compare that to the previous general conditions of sale from 2003. The fact is, the conveyancing process has become too slow. We've known for a long time that if the solicitor is instructed before or as the property goes on the market, we can be getting in the deeds and starting to collate the other home charter scheme documentation that we need to avoid delays once the property is sale agreed. The sooner we know that, we know that the sooner we get a heads up, the sooner we can identify any issues. If you've looked at the document, it may seem surprising to some that a completion date of 6 to 8 weeks is being talked about in the new People, Professionals and Property document, when we know a completion time really can be anything between 12 and 16 weeks. The reason for this, quite simply, is because the three professions that have agreed that if the appropriate steps are carried out by the appropriate professionals at the appropriate time, then a 6 to 8 week completion date is achievable in straightforward cases. It is incumbent upon all of us to create the conditions which will allow that to happen. And now we also have the vendor's property questionnaire, which will massively enhance that initial work. The questionnaire is designed to identify issues and direct the vendor's mind to the sort of information and documentation that we'll be needing as vendor solicitors to send to the purchaser solicitors. It's not to replace, for the solicitors in the room, it's not to replace the replies to pre-contract inquiries, which does a slightly different role, but it's rather to act as an early warning system. We've listed some examples. So for solicitors, it will help identify tenancies, building control issues, if there's a consent to discharge or if there's a septic tank. If there's management company operations, that's always one that needs early identification. And for the selling agents as well, it allows you to sort of gather a background view of what's actually happening with the vendor. It will help you manage expectations in terms of preferred viewing times, reasons for selling, chains, and things like that. It leads to an even more important element to the start of any property transaction, which is the requirement on the agent under the Code of Conduct for residential estate agents to provide certain legally required information when the property is marketed. That's something which is outside the solicitor's ballpark, and it's very important that all the professions keep in their own lanes. So since we don't actually as solicitors know what that is, I am delighted to invite Mary Lou from Property Mark to come up and talk to us a bit about the Code of Practice for residential estate agents and the sort of things that the estate agent will need from the solicitor at the outset. Come on.
Sorry, good morning everybody. As there's a lot of estate agents in the room, I don't really need to tell you most about it because I'm sure you're all fully qualified in the regulations, especially as Property Mark members, and that's why I found this opportunity was exceptional to be able to really fundamentally discuss with the Law Society and our Property Committee about the exact regulations that us estate agents must follow. And it was quite eye-opening to see how much they didn't actually realise just as how much legislation and compliance we must follow before we even put a property on the open market. So that was basically one way to fundamentally connect getting the selling agent and the vendor to instruct the vendor solicitor before we go to the market, and that's why the questionnaire has come in exceptionally, I think, at the right stage. When we talk about code of conduct and the legislation that we follow, we all know that we have to get material information before we go on the market. That was another point where the committee had not realised that we must know if it's leasehold or freehold, and we can't market it without knowing that and having the facts. And I know most of us out there will know instantly if that house is freehold or leasehold, but when trading standards have literally changed their let's say focus, and very much I am sure maybe some of the agents in the room have actually been notified by trading standards asking for a copy of their terms of business and things like that to show that you know that you have to have that and you cannot advertise without it. I think the timing has been perfect, because this will really, could I say, it's to open up the channels of communication between the solicitors and us as estate agents. This has been a fundamental way for you to understand why we need to be involved and why we need them to explain exactly what information we need about the property. The second step was obviously through sales progression. I don't know about most of the room. Sometimes you can phone up and ask about how the sale is progressing and you don't get anywhere. You know, I know a few smiles in the room, it does happen. But this is another tool for us to be able to say, you have to do this. Because again, with CPRs, we have to know what's happening. And we have to be able to discuss with the purchaser solicitor and the vendor solicitor what's happening, and in order to advise our client, but also the consumer. So all round, this will protect us as agents. It will protect the entire process. It will speed up the process, because at the end of the day, we need communication, and this will open up the lines of communication against all. So that's really all I want to say. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary Lou. It can be seen from the section entitled Selling Agent that the importance of getting the solicitor instructed prior to the property being marketed has been bolstered significantly. In a recent survey of conveyancing solicitors, this was seen as desirable by 81% of solicitors in that survey. The first 6 paragraphs of that section deal with the information and the documentation that we've agreed the agent needs to encourage the vendor to supply. In turn, we as solicitors have no less an important duty to actually request the title deeds, read the actual completed questionnaire, and start to identify any potential legal issues immediately. You'll be pleased to know that we're not actually going to go through every single obligation on the sheet today. Everyone needs to go away and read it themselves. But one of the things that we do want to highlight is that we have agreed as the 3 professions to clarify our collective position on estate agents taking deposits. And the collective position is they shouldn't, unless it is a new build property, in which case we've increased the maximum booking deposit to £1,500. One element of the process that all of our professions must educate on is that of the survey. We know that estate agents have regularly, with complete justification, let me say, pointed out that some purchasers are only seem to be addressing their minds to getting a survey when they've actually gone in to see the solicitor to sign the contract, and that is way too late, and we know that. All of us are obliged, therefore, to highlight the importance of considering at the earliest opportunity whether a RICS survey should be carried out. So I'm going to ask Sam Dickey from RICS to talk a bit more about this and the kinds of surveys which are available. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everyone. Just want to say thank you to Philip from Law Society, Mary Lou from Property Mark, Claire McNamee, Law Society, and also Simon Murray for the meetings they've facilitated to get this document underway. From a RICS perspective, I think we're keen that everyone will promote the RICS survey at the early stage. As everyone knows, there's 3 levels of survey. Level 1, the mortgage valuation. Level 2 is the home survey, and level 3 is the building survey. I think it's important to get the surveys done early both from a buyer's perspective and a seller's perspective. The sellers are often anxious. They need to know, is my house okay? Is it going to pass survey? So the longer you leave that, the worse it becomes, the more anxiety they have. So it's better to get that survey instructed early in the process. And if it's level 1 and mortgage valuation, you need to know that the buyer has got the finance and it's going to pass the mortgage. From a purchaser's perspective, the purchaser needs to know what they're buying and is there any problems or issues or further specialist advice that's going to be required out of that survey. I think most estate agents welcome the fact that a level 2 survey is going to be instructed. Nothing more estate agents love than renegotiating the price if there is a problem, but you're better doing that early on in the process rather than leaving it to last minute. But I think the RICS is very pleased to be part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. I forgot to give Sam the actual microphone, so we might have to get you to repeat that afterwards.
No problem.
As solicitors, we all need to read and digest and then implement our own obligations as set out in the PPP document. You can see how our role ties in with that of the agent in particular. We must liaise with the estate agent to provide that legal information early. It also adds that the vendor solicitor will receive the questionnaire, which will help in identifying potential legal issues at an early stage. And again, it is incumbent on the solicitor to actually read that and do something with it. We must requisition property certificates and searches as soon as we can when put in funds, and not when the purchaser solicitor confirms that finance is in place. We are now at a point where the game has moved on, and I think I'm right in saying that the estate agent is unlikely even to allow a viewing, let alone accept an offer, if there's not some sort of a decision in principle. Therefore, for a solicitor to delay while waiting for the purchaser's solicitor to receive mortgage instructions is just utterly pointless and counterproductive. Property certificates last for 6 months, so there's really no excuse. And I have to be honest, when we see sometimes solicitors saying that they won't get property certificates and searches until we confirm receipt of a mortgage offer, I wonder whether that's them or whether that's their client instructions, and I would love to actually know if the vendor is aware that they're saying that. Maybe the estate agent could ask, who knows? Cooperation and collaboration between our professions are essential. And as solicitors, we have to recognise that on occasion there has been criticism of how long it takes to pay the estate agent. Round of applause. We agree that this is unacceptable. Larger round of applause. Hence, we have formalised the requirement to seek early confirmation from the client that the invoice can be discharged on completion. Rapturous applause. The whole project and collaboration is about cooperating and communicating with fellow professionals. A lack of communication in particular is an ongoing and often justifiable complaint from estate agents. So we, from the solicitor side of the house, we're more than happy to codify the importance of keeping the estate agent up to date. As with all of the documents today, we all need to take some time to privately read these and put them into practice in our own businesses. From the Law Society's point of view, these documents will form part of the Home Charter Scheme's recommended documentation, and therefore to that extent for solicitors, we will be expected to comply with the provisions of what we've agreed here today. There is no doubt, finally, that when our respective professions understand more about what we do and when we need to do it, respect each other's importance to the house moving process, and work together for the benefit of the same clients and our cash flow, we can achieve much better results for everyone in a faster time frame. So for that reason, Law Society of Northern Ireland, RICS and National Association of Estate Agents Property Mark commends this people, professionals and property collaboration to all solicitors, estate agents and surveyors in Northern Ireland. Thank you very much indeed.